Do you think you have high stomach acid when you have acid reflux? What have I told you? It's exactly the opposite. Find out the details here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. You gotta go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you for being here today on Jimmy Rants. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page as well as over on my YouTube channel. So thank you all for joining us on today's show. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram. I put it up on IGTV. As soon as this is over, it will go up on IGTV. You can actually see a little bit of notes I put in there on my main page, and then click on the IGTV and let you watch the whole thing. So thank you if you're watching this on replay. You can also watch it on replay over here on YouTube. Got a lot of people that watch the replays over on YouTube, so thank you guys for watching as well. And yeah, today is the Living La Vida Low Carb show. The Jimmy Rants episode always airs on Tuesday. And so today, don't miss today's episode. It is airing at llvlc.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. So go check it out. I see it just got posted right before I came on the air here today. So go listen, and you can hear one of the best of Jimmy Rants episodes from recent. And then finally, pop on over to jimmyrants.com. It is the primary website for all of the past episodes I've done. If anything happens to social media, and I'm just bracing for it at any moment, that social media just shuts people down like me, I have a backup of every single thing I do right there at jimmyrants.com, so you can always see the past episodes there. And then that's the way you can support my work, either as a Patreon or doing a donation through PayPal. So I really appreciate all of your support. Norma says Facebook won't let me on today. Well, that's weird. Why won't Facebook let you on Jimmy Rants today? There's a bunch of people over here on Facebook. I don't know why it wouldn't let you on. But thank you guys for being here today. I have an interesting health topic today, because we all talk about various little ailments that get better when you eat a ketogenic diet. And one of those ailments is heartburn and acid reflux. People often report that those things get better when they start keto. And of course, if you've ever had heartburn or had gastric reflux, it can be painful. You literally feel it kind of bubbling up, and it comes right to the throat, and you have this really acidy kind of feeling in your throat. It's really gross if you've ever had that kind of acid reflux start to happen. And so people's natural inclination is to think that the reason why they have acid reflux is because their stomach is producing too much stomach acid. But it's going to shock you guys. The truth is, it's actually exactly the opposite. Most people are walking around with too little stomach acid. We are. Upwards of 90% of the U.S. population don't produce enough stomach acid. Hydrochloric acid, HCl. This is why people have difficulties digesting food. This is why people tend to develop some gastrointestinal types of issues. And this is why people develop, of all things, acid reflux, heartburn. So I have an article here today from a friend of mine, a medical doctor, Dr. Frank Lipman. I've had him on the Living La Vida Low Carb show many times, and he wrote an article all about this topic of acid reflux. And the common drug that is used to help people deal with this acid reflux are these things called Ppi. So Ppi stands for Proton Pump Inhibitor. So you might have seen these. I remember, 25 years ago, they started talking about Prilosec. That was the big one. And then Prilosec OTC. They got so proud of themselves when they made it an over-the-counter drug, Prilosec. The newer ones are things like Nexium and Prevacid. So maybe you've seen some of the commercials for this. Oh, if you've got stomach acid coming up so greatly up your esophagus, take our PPI and we will calm that down for you. What they're not educating properly people on is you don't have a PPI problem. You don't have a need for a proton pump inhibitor. Yes, they work, and Dr. Lippman explains why they work in this article he wrote. But you're going to want to hear the details of this, because when you get heartburn, all you want to do is get out of heartburn and out of that acid reflux pain as soon as possible. People usually pop an antacid or they pop a PPI. He's going to tell you some tips here, 20 ways that you can curb acid reflux without PPIs. So let's get into the story. I've never been a fan of proton pump inhibitors, PPIs. In fact, quite the opposite is true. They were originally marketed as a medical miracle drug for conditions related to the overproduction of gastric acid. But since PPIs first came on the market in the 80s, the stuff has gradually revealed itself to be a lot more dangerous than anyone could have originally imagined. More than 15,000 lawsuits have been filed against the manufacturers of both the prescription and the over-the-counter versions of Nexium, Prilosec, and Prevacid. Among the concerns associated with these PPIs, you have an increased risk for stomach cancer, worsening kidney disease, and digestive ills, not to mention issues with becoming dependent on them. Taken singly or together, it's far too high a price to pay for temporary relief of problems like heartburn, gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, and dyspepsia, painful as they can be. So how do you sidestep all these downsides of consuming PPIs? Start by committing to tackling the problem instead of masking it. Listen to this, you guys. Phasing out PPIs out of your life for good, you need to know how to outsmart the burn and doing it safely. And again, if you're just joining us and you're one of those people who deals with heartburn, you deal with acid reflux, and you're commonly popping either an antacid or one of these PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, high stomach acid is not your issue, as you're about to find out. It's actually low stomach acid. And doctors don't know this. Doctors, they're just going with what the pharmaceutical companies teach them about, well, we have a high stomach acid problem and it's manifesting as all this burn. And of course, to the patient, it makes sense. Oh, you have lots of stomach acid coming up the esophagus. Obviously, that's a high stomach acid issue. Therefore, we need to lower stomach acid. And the reality is 9 out of 10 people don't make enough stomach acid. And that is the reason why you have heartburn and gastric acid reflux. So let's keep reading. Acid is helpful until it isn't. Acid reflux occurs when some of the acid in your stomach that's necessary for the digestion of food backs up into your esophagus, the tube that connects your stomach to your throat. There is where you get that burning sensation that often people refer to as heartburn. When you pop a proton pump inhibitor, again, things like Nexium, Prilosec, Prevacid, it temporarily will tame down that flame by inhibiting the stomach's production of gastric acid. But contrary to what you might think, acid reflux is often caused not by too much acid, but rather by too little. So if your stomach acid is low, listen to what happens. It often happens with an altered or out of balance microbiome not functioning well because you're stressed, because you eat a poor diet, or because you're getting older. Your food simply won't get broken down properly. The food then sits in your stomach for a long time until some of it backs up into your esophagus, along with some of the acid that accompanies it. So it's not just the acid that's going back up your esophagus. It's the undigested food which is sitting there because your body doesn't have enough stomach acid to fully digest the food, so it moves on through the body like it's supposed to. Do you see why it's low stomach acid and not high stomach acid that's causing this acid reflux, that's causing this heartburn? It's the very antithesis of what these PPIs are doing. They're lowering stomach acid at the very point when you have low stomach acid. That doesn't make any sense at all. When stomach acid levels are healthy and in balance, not too much and not too little, you can digest food a lot more efficiently so that it will pass freely down into your intestines instead of refluxing up into your esophagus. So one of the major components of stomach acid, and again, if you're just joining us, acid reflux. You don't need to pop a PPI. You don't need to pop an antacid. You don't have high stomach acid. You actually have too low. And one of the basic components of stomach acid that people don't mind, that they don't get enough of in their either their diet or their supplements, is zinc. And of course, we've been hearing a lot about zinc in the context of COVID-19. Having zinc along with something like hydroxychloroquine and maybe azithromycin could be a nice prophylactic for COVID-19. We've been hearing that. Or treatment in the early days of the symptoms. Zinc is so critical, you guys. So if you're not getting enough zinc, you need to be mindful of that so that you can have the proper amount of stomach acid. So if you have major heartburn, you have major acid reflux that keeps happening again and again and again, you got to get your zinc levels up in your body. We got Dr. Lippman provided a whole bunch of really great tips at the end of this article, but let me keep going through here with what's wrong with the PPIs. Proton pump inhibitors mess with more than just stomach acid. Listen to what they do to your body, guys. While it will briefly tame symptoms, a PPI will also make it a lot more difficult for your body to absorb the vitamins and nutrients that you're consuming. So, if you're eating nutrient-dense foods, which if you're eating a ketogenic diet, a carnivore diet, a real food diet, yeah, you are. You're getting really great nutrition. But what if you take these PPIs? The unintended consequence of that is you're not digesting very well the vitamins and the nutrients. And that makes sense too. Think about it. Again, what is it doing? It's lowering the stomach acid. Okay? While that makes you feel good when you have heartburn and you have acid reflux, that makes that calm down. The unintended consequence is now you have no acid in your stomach to be able to properly absorb the vitamins and nutrients in the foods that you consume. So even if you do eat healthy, your body simply won't fully absorb calcium, iron, B12, magnesium, which among other ill effects can compromise your cardiovascular health. So this is an unintended consequence. What users wind up with is a type of Ppi Induced Malnutrition. In other words, you took this drug, and because you took this drug, it actually made you malnourished. Now you think, okay, well, I ate good food. Yes, you did. But your body is not interested in the food that you eat. Your body's only interested in the foods and the nutrients from those foods that you absorbed. And if this PPI prevents your body from absorbing the nutrients that it needs to function properly, you're going to have adverse reactions in your health. And some of those include anemia, fatigue, seizures, bone loss, fractures, abdominal pain, headache, and more. So you took a PPI to stop heartburn, but then you picked up all of these as a direct result. And there's people, guys, they pop PPIs every single day. They can't stop the acid reflux, the heartburn from happening. And what they don't realize is it's a whole lot worse consequence taking that than if they didn't take it. So if you're not feeling at the top of your game while you're taking a PPI, these nutrient deficiencies may be partly to blame. What's more, PPIs also interact negatively with medication. So if you're on other medications, they don't do well with other medications. You can actually increase your heart attack risk and heart failure risk. It's been correlated with a 25% higher chance of death over the long term. 25% higher mortality rate if you take these over the long term. And again, there's people that pop these like Tic Tacs every single day. So you have to ask yourself, is it really worth it? Seems like a hard no to me, says Dr. Lippman. PPIs can also weaken the microbiome's defense against pathogens and viruses. Remember, the microbiome in your gut is your second brain. And if we don't mind our second brain and properly take care of it, then damage can certainly occur to the body. Here's another all too timely reason why it's time to rethink your use of PPIs. They may also make you more vulnerable to viruses as well as harmful bacteria. Your gut is home to your microbiome, the wide variety of bacteria that keep your digestion and immunity strong when the bacteria are in balance. This is something, when we've been talking about immunity and COVID-19, I'm not hearing a lot of people talk about minding your microbiome and making sure it's in tip-top shape. And so one of the ways you do that is to not damage it. And what Dr. Lippman is saying in this article is taking a proton pump inhibitor because you have heartburn, because you have acid reflux, actually could be causing that very damage to your immune system indirectly because of its effect on your microbiome. When your microbiome is not in balance, the bad bacteria will gain the upper hand, interfere with healthy gut function, and you'll be a lot more vulnerable to disease. So what throws the bacterial balance off? A number of culprits are out there, but a big one is proton pump inhibitors. According to a recent Mayo Clinic study, researchers found that regular PPI users have a lot less microbial diversity, which puts them at a higher risk for infections like pneumonia, as well as vitamin deficiencies. Remember, you're not absorbing the nutrients in the foods and even the supplements that you take properly if you're taking these PPIs. They can also alter the gut's pH levels, which further compromises your ability to fight off pathogens. A finding from a July 2020 online survey of 53,000 Americans, it was published in the American Journal of Gastroenterology. It suggests that PPIs may also, get this guys, may also significantly increase your odds of testing positive for COVID-19. This research is still in the early days, but the possibility that taking a PPI can actually increase your odds of getting COVID-19 should give even the most diehard fans of PPIs cause for concern as this pandemic rages on. And it stands to reason. You're deficient in nutrients, not the least of which is what we talked about earlier. When you don't have enough zinc in your diet, you can't produce enough stomach acid. And so if you're taking a PPI, you remove stomach acid. Even if you take zinc, you're not fully absorbing that zinc. And that is one of the things that's key in fighting this off. I've been taking a lot of vitamin D in the midst of the pandemic since it began. I've pretty much been high dosing vitamin D and getting sunshine every day. And if I took a proton pump inhibitor, I would not be absorbing near the level of vitamin D that I take and that I'm making through my skin from the sunshine. So it's important to remember that if you're one of the people that take proton pump inhibitors. So he says, come clean with your doctor and yourself. Despite all the downsides, PPIs continue to be the very first line of defense when you go to your doctor with heartburn and gastric distress. Not to mention, it's a $10 billion cash cow, these proton pump inhibitors for Big Pharma. An estimated 15 million plus Americans are currently taking the prescription PPIs. And that doesn't even include the people who take them over the counter, like Prilosec OTC. While these drugs can relieve uncomfortable gut symptoms quickly, that's their siren call. They can also create a physical dependence on them that's really hard to fight long term. Did you know you could become dependent on a PPI? So that forces you to keep taking it. Of course, if you keep getting heartburn and keep getting gastric reflux, you're going to keep taking it thinking, well, every time I take it, it goes away. Yes, it does, but it chips away slowly at your gut health, your immunity, and your overall health every time you do that. When people stop taking them, they often suffer from a rebound effect. The body produces more gastric acid, which then makes it feel even worse. So if you've ever tried to come off of PPIs before and you had that rush of acid come up all of a sudden, there's a reason for that. It's your body slowly trying to recompensate for this PPI that's been artificially lowering your stomach acid even more. And so it's trying to recover from that. So to prevent this, it's essential to taper off of the PPI slowly under a physician's care if you've been using them for a while, OTC or prescription, and anywhere from a month to years of titrating yourself off of these things. So Dr. Lippman offers up some tips about how to get your gastric act together. Ideally, you want to find natural, healthy ways to handle stomach acid issues. If you've been suffering from heartburn, GERD, dyspepsia, and have a growing reliance on PPIs, I highly recommend working with a functional medicine practitioner to help guide you on the PPI-free pathway. I know a lot of the nutritional therapy, the functional nutritional therapy practitioners as well, FNTPs, are very good at helping you boost your stomach acid production as well. This is a key teaching in the Nutritional Therapy Association, is that we don't have too much stomach acid, we have too little, and of course vitamins and minerals, and getting all of those in the proper balance for the body to function properly is kind of what their job is. So seek these people out, a functional medicine practitioner or a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. So you can use a combination of the following strategies to heal your gut, reduce your triggers, and get your system back on track again, pain and PPI free. So you guys ready for this? This is really good stuff. Right at 20 different things you can do besides taking a proton pump inhibitor or an antacid. So here we go. Mind your meals. Number 1, trim the total number of carbohydrates you consume. Now, that should not be a new message for those of you that watch me on Jimmy Rants. I've been the low carb guy for over 15 years. Definitely carbs are an instigator in causing this issue. So you want to trade sugary, starchy foods for ones that are rich in nutrients, non-starchy plants, low sugar fruits that will support healing and improve your gut function. This is something that a lot of the researchers looking at a ketogenic diet, for example, when they started doing studies on low-carb diets, I remember it was Dr. Westman, Dr. Eric Westman at Duke. He was looking at something totally different, but he kept having his patients come back to him in the midst of the study and said, oh yeah, I used to have heartburn, it's gone now. And it happened about 10 times amongst I think he had like 30 patients. And he's like, wow, like all these people are reporting, self-reporting a benefit that he didn't even ask them about. He wasn't even studying it. And so we know reducing carbohydrates is going to be a really good key in keeping that heartburn at bay. Number 2, if your gastric issues are much more severe, you and your practitioner may also wish to consider a 2-week elimination diet to help you identify and remove triggering foods. So if you've ever done the Whole30 or other kinds of elimination diet, you basically remove any culprit that could be a problem in your diet. For some people, they get it from eating eggs. I know I would cry, but some people do have adversity to that. Other people don't do well with nuts and seeds. Other people don't do well with nightshade. So you're removing all of these things for a couple of weeks, and you slowly reintroduce them one at a time to see if you have a reactivity. So if your heartburn goes away in the midst of an elimination diet, and then you reintroduce something and you're okay, that's probably all right. But then you reintroduce another category of something and suddenly the symptoms are back, then you know you found the culprit in your heartburn. So that's a good strategy. Number 3, lean towards low acid fruits and vegetables, things like kale, yellow squash, asparagus. Keep acidic citrus fruits to a minimum. Garlic, peppers, onions, orange juice, and spicy foods are usually the most common troublemakers, so go light on those foods if you're going to consume them. Number 4, pass up on the fried foods, condiments like mustard and ketchup, as well as tomato paste, sauces, and juice. But for some people, raw tomatoes will be fine. So yeah, anything that's going to exacerbate that acid and make it where it doesn't properly digest the foods, you got to take care of that. Number 5, Avoid burn-triggering carbonated beverages, seltzer, and coffee. I know I just stepped on a whole bunch of people's toes because they're like, wait a minute. If I can't have carbonated beverages, seltzer, or coffee, what am I to drink? There is this thing called water. And if you're trying to heal damage of your stomach not producing enough stomach acid and thus causing this gastric reflux, acid reflux and causing heartburn, just give up those things for a period of time. See if it calms down that pain. Number 6, cool it off or cool it with the cocktails as well as wine and beer. All of them can trigger heartburn. Man, so no coffee, no beverages that have carbonation in them, no wine, no beer. This is like the no fun diet. But if you're serious about wanting to do something about your heartburn, this is what you do. You don't pop a Ppis. But here's what it is. People want to keep consuming all those things. And so they happily take a Ppi because it, quote, takes care of the problem, not realizing they're causing all those issues that we talked about earlier. Number 7, linger over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In other words, eat slowly enough so your body has time to ramp up digestion to meet the demand. Now, I'm guilty of this. I do tend to eat a little faster than I need to. So slowing down. I remember this trick that somebody taught me one time. I interviewed someone and they were like, take a bite, set the fork down for 30 seconds, which means you chew and chew and chew and chew and chew. And even the Nutritional Therapy Association in their teachings, you're supposed to chew your food. I know it's going to be kind of gross if you've never heard this before, but you're supposed to chew your food until it's completely liquid. And then you swallow. And that will help your body digest these foods better. Because the last thing you want to do is get a big old hunk of steak, swallow it practically whole. It goes all the way down into your stomach, and it sits there because you don't have enough stomach acid to help break it down. And then over time, it starts to come back up the esophagus along with acid, and then that trickles up into the throat, and you get that burning sensation, and you're like, what in the world is going on? Well, if you chewed it properly, you wouldn't have had that problem. Number 8, make your meals a bit more mindful. Take breaks between bites, like we were just talking about, putting your fork down periodically. Enjoy your food to keep heartburn at bay. So eat slowly, put your fork down. Number 9, get into the habit of eating a light early dinner at least 3 hours before bedtime to make sure digestion is winding down long before you tuck yourself into bed at night. I have made this a regular practice for a while to make sure my final meal of the day is somewhere around 4:30, 5 o'clock at the latest, because I go to bed at 8 o'clock. And so if I'm in bed by 8 o'clock, I want to make sure that my body is not still digesting. Now, last week, I found myself in a situation where I couldn't eat until 7:30. And so I ate at 7:30 and 8 o'clock tried to go to sleep. And I remember laying down and I could just feel my body digesting. And I'm going, okay, this is going to be a sucky night of sleep. And according to the Oura Ring, it was a sucky night of sleep. So lesson learned. But that does also pose problems when you eat heavier at night. So try to eat a little bit earlier so you don't have that issue. Number 10, to help repair the negative effects of these PPIs, supplement your gut with a probiotic, preferably one with at least 20 billion viable organisms, several different types of good bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, 2 of the most highly regarded strains. A good probiotic will repopulate your gut with good bacteria, and it will help restore the microflora that will help your microbiome to flourish. So if you don't already take a probiotic, you probably do have a messed up gut microbiome. So getting adequate levels of these bacteria in your gut is going to help you digest foods so much better. Number 11, consider adding, and I'm going to slaughter this, but bear with me, deglycyrrhizinated licorice, DEGLYCYRRHIZINATED. literally have never seen that word in my life, but that word, licorice DGL, to your anti-reflux mix. In capsule form, DGL helps protect your esophagus from acid, and it allows for healing. So it's another supplement you can take to help in this issue. Number 12, aloe vera. Yes, that stuff you put on your sunburn. It actually has been shown to be a safe and well-tolerated treatment option that's side effect free. So if you get heartburn, swallow some aloe vera. That's kind of cool. Number 13, mastic gum's anti-inflammatory properties help soothe the esophagus and facilitating healing. So mastic gum, M-A-S-T-I-C, second word G-U-M. Number 14, zinc carnosine has also been shown to be an anti-inflammatory and is helpful in healing damage from acid-blocking drugs. So these are all ways you heal the damage supplementally from taking a proton pump inhibitor. All right, we're at the home stretch, guys. So here are some simple reflux fighting habits. If you haven't already, stop smoking. No excuses. Smoking will irritate the membranes of your throat. Nicotine weakens the esophageal valve, allowing acid to back up, causing irritation and burn. Number 16, dropping extra weight will help reduce the pressure on your stomach that can force acid to go up. Number 17, avoid tight clothing, which can put pressure on your stomach, pressing food back up in your esophagus. So that's a good tip. Number 18, minimize your medications that you take as much as possible, as antibiotics, prescription, and OTC drugs actually will make your acid matters worse. A few of the classic troublemakers, see if you take any of these. Doxycycline, tetracycline, clindamycin, aspirin, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, the NSAIDs, things like Advil, Aleve, and Motrin. If you regularly take those kinds of drugs, you're actually making your stomach issues worse, not better. Number 19, give yourself time to unwind from the day with some stress-reducing, relaxing meditation, which not surprisingly will help you digest better as well. And then the last one, number 20, when it's time to turn in, train yourself to sleep on a gentle incline, keeping your head and shoulders slightly elevated to keep acid moving in a downward direction. I remember one time I was on a bed that for some reason it started going backwards. And so I had everything kind of coming up. I remember having major heartburn from that. I'm like, what in the world? And so what I did was I stacked a few pillows up, lifted me back up again, and the pain went away. So it is a thing to try to lift your head slightly above everything else on your body so you keep that acid down. Because I don't know about you guys, there's nothing worse when you're trying to sleep and you get that burn in your throat. A lot of people deal with that. And so hopefully this was good information here today. Acid reflux doesn't mean you got to take an antacid, doesn't mean you have to take a proton pump inhibitor, and it's most certainly not from high stomach acid. It's actually too low a stomach acid. The stomach acid is there for a reason. In the proper balance, it will digest food well, and when food does not digest well, that's when you start having these problems. All right, so let's see what you guys have to say about this one. Thank you for being here today. We're going to come over here to Instagram first, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. The Carnitarian has the first question or first comment. This is such great info. I switched my mother to a keto carnivore diet, and she's just about off her 15-year PPI habit. Wow, man, her poor microbiome, having to deal with that for so long. But thankfully, she listened to you, and she's hopefully going to get relief from that. It will be interesting as she gets off of that completely and she just goes to the animal-based diet. I would love to hear if her need for those PPIs has gone away. Now, I wonder what kind of side effects she's going to have trying to come off of them, since Dr. Lippman did note that people get dependent on these PPIs. So what are the side effects? Do Is it just psychological that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have acid reflux and I need that to keep it at bay, or what it is? Joshua says, if I remember right, the safety studies on PPIs were only done up to 6 weeks. I don't know. I haven't looked at all the research into proton pump inhibitors, but if all they did was look 6 weeks and they were already seeing problems, it doesn't look good in the long term. The Carnitarian also said her mom was waking up from reflux in her throat. Terrible drugs. Yeah, I mean, they definitely aren't doing they're not doing the job that they're telling people in the marketing they're doing. Oh, we're going to lower your stomach acid. Well, yeah, they are, but it's not because you have high stomach acid that you're getting the heartburn and the acid reflux. It's because you have too low and it's not digesting the food properly. This is a concept I hope more people latch on to. It's just like anything else we've been told. That eating cholesterol is going to raise your cholesterol. No, it doesn't. That having high cholesterol means you're at a greater risk for heart disease. No, it doesn't. So it's just another one in the long list of things that we've been told to believe that simply aren't true. Thank you, Instagram. Let's pop over here to Facebook, see what you guys have to say. What's up, Facebook? Judy says, I had heartburn for years, reversed it within days of going keto. That's not uncommon. I have heard that quite a bit. Kira says, my doctors have me on 40 milligrams of Nexium a day for years because they said I had GERD. Before that, I was given Protonics. It just made it far worse until I went low-carb keto. None of that calmed down. I don't take any of them anymore ever since December 2018. Well, congratulations, Kira. That's awesome. You're a testimony to the power of changing your diet in a myriad of ways. So that's awesome. Jenny says, I just got here, but since switching my life to keto, I rarely have any heartburn. Yeah, I'm hearing that again and again and again. Thank you, Facebook. Let me pop over now to my YouTube channel, see what you guys have to say. And all you guys had to say was, hi, Jimmy. Well, hello. Thanks for being here today, you guys. So perhaps you've got family members, friends, people in your life that they are dependent on these PPIs, or they think they have to take them because they get major heartburn. And I hope this is good news for them. I hope that this opens the door that, okay, maybe they think they needed this and that they were sold a bill of goods. They were sold the idea that they had high stomach acid that they needed to lower. And maybe this Jimmy Rants here today, you can use it to help educate them. Okay, here's what's actually happening. And walk them through it and talk about some of the side effects, some of the health risks. The 25% increased risk of death was the one that caught my attention. And in the era of COVID, you're a lot more susceptible to catching and getting a positive COVID-19 case if you take a PPI than if you don't. Yeah, those are two compelling reasons to try to avoid these things like the plague. Kim says, I'm trying to get off of my Nexium. I need to watch the video again and take notes. Yes, and go look up this article, 20 Ways to Curb Acid Reflux Without PPIs. It's by Dr. Frank Lipman. It's on his website, drfranklipman.com, drfranklipman.com. He's a wonderful man. I've interviewed him several times on the Living La Vida Low Carb show, and he knows his stuff. And he is a functional medicine practitioner who truly does care about people, and he is low carb friendly. So, Shirley says, my mom was having issues with acid reflux. And I had her try apple cider vinegar, and it's taking care of it. Yeah, apple cider vinegar is another one of those tricks. I'm surprised he didn't put ACV in his article. But yes, it is a nice one. I know some people, they'll have a little bit of like lemon juice, just a little kind of shot glass worth, just a little bloop in a shot glass. But that could be a problem for people experiencing acid reflux, because if it doesn't truly go all the way down to the stomach, it can come right back up and cause those issues. So Terry Lee says sleep apnea is horrible. Well, yeah, you got sleep apnea and heartburn. It's definitely a 1-2 negative punch in trying to get any sleep. So, all right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. Joshua said, I had a client that had gotten on an HCl pepsin supplement, his terrible heartburn went away within days. See, sometimes that's all it takes, is just properly treating the body with the things that it needs. If you're not taking digestive enzymes, if you're not taking HCl, like you were just mentioning, pepsin supplement, all of these things are key in digesting foods well. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple fix once you figure it out. Harpsy said it would be easier to teach them to go keto than to convince them to give up what they're used to. Yeah, maybe. For real this time. That's all the time we have for this episode of Jimmy Rants. I was saying goodbye and then I got 3 comments. I was like, whoa. So thank you for watching here today. Here on Instagram, you need to go follow me at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so be there, be square. We also simulcast on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. We put it right here on Instagram. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube. Type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. Today is Living La Vida Low Carb Show Jimmy Rants Day. So on Tuesdays on my flagship podcast, I always air a best of Jimmy Rants. So I've got a couple of recent Jimmy Rants episodes that we air back to back on the Living La Vida Low Carb Show today. So go listen at llvlc.com. And then finally pop over to the official website for the show, jimmyrants.com. While you're there, watch all the past episodes there, and then you can actually support what we do here. If you like this kind of information, I try to find this little diamond in the rough type of information, be a little bit different from everything else that you see out there. So if you appreciate that effort, go and support me. I have a Patreon link, which I have lots of surprises and things in store just for my Patreon followers. And then if you want to make a one-time donation, a lot of people have been asking if they could do that. There is a PayPal link there as well. All of that is at jimmyrants.com. All right, guys, that's it for now. We'll be back again real soon with more Jimmy Rants. Bye.